Hi, this is Kaleah, and today I'm going to talk about this need to seek revenge. This is a really important topic, and I was having a conversation with a friend the other day about a situation that we were both in, trying to help bring justice to a woman in our community. I've done a video about this. Some of you may have seen this video, but we are trying to bring justice to a woman who was abused in our community by seeing the man who had inflicted this abuse be criminally prosecuted for his dirty deeds, so to speak. As we started going more into this conversation, we discussed what our real goals were, and were we really looking for revenge? Were we really looking to get even with this person? Were we really looking to focus our energy in that direction? And the answer was no. What we really wanted to do is see the woman who was abused to really heal from her abuse and come out thriving. We realized that the lords of karma will take care of him, however they choose to take care of him. He's a man who believes that he's innocent. He believes that he's being a victim. For those of you that get involved in relationships with narcissists, it's very typical to want revenge. I know I went through this myself where I really wanted revenge. I fantasized about revenge. But in time, that need dissipates because we start to focus on what's really important, and that is our own growth and our own recovery. It's more what we want for ourselves instead of what we want for the other. There is a natural need when we feel that a crime is done, whether that crime is punishable by law or not, that we want to see justice served. And that is normal. I think that's a natural human desire. But we're going beyond a lot of our natural human desires as we ascend to a higher levels of consciousness, to where we don't do the same things that we used to do, or we don't do things the same way that we used to. Instead, we start looking more to ourselves and what is being triggered in us, what it is that we need. And when you're focused on revenge, you're focused on that other person, you're taking the focus off what you need for yourself. And I know some of you maybe are jokingly saying what I need is revenge. I get that, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the ability to really look at what your own needs are. You know, your need for healing, your need to break free of patterns of abuse, your need to get back on your feet again. Some people are just completely deflated because of these relationships. In fact, I had somebody that was watching one of my videos where I was talking about that metamorphosis process that we go through from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And that person said that they were going backwards, that they went from a butterfly to a caterpillar to a worm, suggesting the lowliest of low. You know, that is what it means to be deflated, to feel really deflated. And I get that. I've felt really deflated in coming out of these narcissistically abusive relationships. I've felt very deflated as a result of that. However, the reason that I was deflated and the reason that all of us are deflated is because on some level we're allowing ourselves to be deflated, meaning that we tell ourselves things or believe things about ourselves that aren't true. We adopt these negative patterns of belief about ourselves, what I call core wounds and core beliefs. These beliefs that we're not lovable, that we're not good enough, that there's something wrong with us. And when we have these kinds of beliefs, we are ripe for the picking, meaning a narcissist has that radar he's going to zone in, or she's going to zone in on these negative beliefs, almost as if that person is completely privy to what's going on inside of you. It almost seems like they have that sixth sense where they can tell exactly where your weaknesses are. And so, because our weaknesses are being used against us in these kinds of situations where you're dealing with narcissists, sociopaths, borderlines, and people that don't take responsibility for what they're creating but shuck all the responsibility onto you, that when you have these ideas about yourself that you're somehow lowlier than or less than or not enough, not lovable, then those get played back to you through the actions and the behavior of that narcissistic person. And the more you accept what's being played back to you, the more you take that on, the lower you're going to go. You become more and more and more deflated. And oftentimes at the end of these relationships, we are completely deflated. And it takes a lot of work to get ourselves back up, to the caterpillar, let alone the butterfly. We've got to keep moving up. It's a process of emergence. And there's a lot of work that we have to do on ourselves. So rather than focusing on what that person did to us and taking the role of a victim, and I'm not saying that you might not have genuinely been victimized. I get a picture, when I talk about a victim, I get a picture of somebody that's kind of laying down. It's an ultimate defeat. And that's being in that victim energy, is that ultimate defeat where you just don't have any strength to stand up. You don't have any strength to get back on your feet. But that's exactly what you need to do. If you're in the darkness and you've made your bed there, you're not going anywhere. You're going to stay stuck in that darkness. But if you can get back on your feet, you can start walking forward towards the light, and you can emerge into that butterfly. It's going to be a process. It's a journey. And you have to face those parts of yourselves that you have deemed unacceptable and unlovable. That's why we get involved in these relationships, or why we stay in them. Not necessarily why we get involved in the first place, but why we stay in them after the abuse starts. We stay in them because we believe things about ourselves that are getting fed back to us. And we often believe, well, this is the best I can do because I'm worthless, because nobody else is going to love me. I'm not good enough. And these are false beliefs that we have to rise above. These are the beliefs that are going to deflate us, that give that narcissist in our lives power to deflate us, to bring us down. When all is said and done and you're getting out of these relationships, whether it's by your choice or whether it's the choice of the narcissist, it does not matter. The important thing is that you're getting out, and that's what you have to tell yourself. Because that situation was not good for you. It was not healthy. It made you feel like crap about yourself. And it's time to change how you feel about yourself. So the focus really of your attention needs to be coming back home to you, to changing your attitudes and your beliefs about yourself. It's a process, and you may need help for this journey. Changing core beliefs isn't always an easy journey, but you first need to become aware of what you're telling yourself on a regular basis. What are the lies you're telling yourself? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? And can you identify these as lies? Is it really true that you're worthless? Is it really true that you're not good enough? Is it really true that you're not lovable? Of course not. No matter how you answered that question, the answer is, of course it's not true. You were born lovable. You were born good enough. And nothing has changed. The only reason that you have felt that you weren't good enough, that there was something wrong with you, is because of your early childhood programming and any programming that has happened since that has reinforced that. And so you have to learn how to adopt positive ideas and beliefs about yourself. And this is what is going to create the you that believes that you really deserve real love, that you deserve someone in your life that treats you kindly with respect, that is capable of loving you, that's capable of seeing you from a clear lens, not a distorted lens like a narcissist. A narcissist sees you through a completely distorted lens, projecting their own fears and insecurities outward onto you and then blaming you for them. And none of us should be in these kind of relationships. They're not healthy, you know that. And so we have to learn about ourselves, about what keeps us there, what keeps us going back to these kinds of dynamics, these familiar types of dynamics that are so unhealthy for us. And how can we rise up from these places that we've become stuck? I've worked with people who really are identifying with their victim roles, and they do not want to let them go. So they come to their session with the poor me, I'm such a victim, there's nothing I'm ever going to be able to do to change that. And I mean, I get it. I think we all feel that way sometimes, but we don't want to get stuck there. We don't want to stay there. It doesn't matter whether you were victimized or not. Your choice to stay a victim is yours. And when you choose to stay a victim, you choose to stay lying down rather than getting back on your feet. I want you to think about the word defeat. You know, it's almost like if you break it in two, defeat, no feet. Your feet have been taken out from underneath you. You are flat on your back. You are not only defeated, but deflated. You are down. The only way to get beyond that is to get back up on your feet, to find your feet again, to stand up, to stand for yourself so that you're not fighting against something. You're fighting for yourself. And fighting for yourself might not even be the right word, because it still suggests a fight, and the word fight means struggle. And of course we all struggle with our core wounds and our core beliefs, trying to rise above those. But the best way to overcome any of this is to give to those parts of you that feel not enough, deflated, unloved, unappreciated, not good enough. To give love to those parts of yourself, to learn how to love those parts of yourself. And that's what this whole journey is about. Many of you say, oh, I really loved that person, that narcissistic person. I loved that person so much. And yet, as you kind of go on to the journey, you realize, well, that narcissist didn't love me because he didn't love himself, or she didn't love herself. So how could that person possibly love me? Well, we have to reverse that too. How can we possibly authentically love somebody else if we don't love ourselves? So we have to be able to take those parts of ourselves that are feeling low, defeated, not enough, and send love to these parts of ourselves, to have compassion for these parts of ourselves, to care about these parts of ourselves. This is love. This is self-love. When we continue to beat up on ourselves, we become our own worst enemy. And I've talked about this before, that we can often be a worse enemy to ourselves than the narcissist is to us, because we beat ourselves up by constantly finding fault with ourselves, by constantly finding ourselves as less than, identifying with being less than, with being not enough. And these are the basic core wounds that we have to heal. The basic core wounds, core beliefs, otherwise known as flat out lies. They're not true. They're not true. They're just what you've come to believe about yourself. So it's time to shift your consciousness. It's time to shift your beliefs to get back up on your feet and begin to affirm yourself. Not so much fight for yourself, but affirm yourself. To say positive things about yourself. Fake it till you make it if you need to. You may not feel it right away. You may feel defeated and deflated. But if you focus on being kind to you, if you focus on being loving to you, if you focus on finding the good in you, then you begin to rise up. You begin to come into your power. Because when you're in your power, when you've risen up from these false beliefs can't be used against you anymore. And this is really important. When you're continually focused on the negative, on wanting revenge, on wanting to get even with this other person, you have a great deal of negativity focused on that person. And what we resist persists. So the more we fight against something, the more that fight comes back to us. And we're always in this state of fight. And even with the PTSD, there's that fight or flight, always fighting or fleeing or fighting or fleeing. We have to, in a sense, surrender the fight. Stop fighting in that way. Stop fighting against that person. Stop resisting that person. Don't invite them into your life by any means, but stop fighting against them. And instead surrender to yourself, to your own healing. This is super important. This is what's going to lift you up, bring you up out of this, is to bring your attention back here. When you fight against the narcissist, you're giving them your energy. You're feeding them. And a narcissist doesn't care whether you're feeding them with bad energy or good energy as long as they're getting fed. So stop giving them food. Stop giving them your attention and energy. And I do understand with post-traumatic stress that there is that tendency to be obsessed and hyper-focused on that narcissist. But the practice is to bring your attention back here, to become focused on yourself, on your own healing, on your own self-love. This is what is important. This is what's going to lift you out of the crazy and prevent you from continuing in these serial crazy relationships, so that you can rise up and draw to you through the law of attraction something much more positive in your life, someone who supports you as much as you support you. That's why it's important to support you first, because you are going to draw a mirror in some ways to how you feel about yourself, to where you're at with yourself. So we often don't really fully understand, why did I attract this narcissist into my life? Or why was I attracted to this? And it usually is a reflection of something that we're struggling with, we're fighting with within ourselves, that narcissistic person is going to reflect to us. So we can really use this as an opportunity to rise up and to heal these core wounds and to step up into a higher level of consciousness. and have higher level relationships. A lot of people that I work with, when they start to awaken to what's really happening and understand what narcissism is, they start to look around and go, oh, wow, almost everybody in my life is a narcissist. They start to see it in their family, they see it in their friends, they see it in all these situations, their work situations. And it's a bit of a shock, to say the least. But when you are walking blind through life, you're going to keep recreating the same patterns over and over again. You're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and that's the definition of insanity. When you want to step out of the crazy, you have to start doing things differently. And when we're unconscious, we magnetize the same type of relationships over and over and over again. So as we become conscious to our own internal programs, we start to see what's going on inside of ourselves. And then we start to understand why we are attracting what we're attracting into our lives. And we can start saying, no, thank you, I deserve better than that. I deserve to be treated with respect. I deserve to be treated with kindness. But we're also treating ourselves with respect and kindness, which is of the utmost importance. You have to treat yourself with that respect and that kindness. And as you start to do that, and you start to say no to this narcissistic paradigm that you've been sleepwalking through, you start to change your paradigm and you change what starts to show up in your life. You'll find yourself in new work environments. You'll find yourself having new friends. You'll find yourself creating new family. It can be what we call family of choice, people that you enjoy being around. You even start to go no contact with people in your life that refuse to treat you with respect. So these are the kinds of changes that are on the table right now to be made. Who are you? What's going on inside of you? What are the beliefs that you are carrying about yourself? What are your deepest wounds, your deepest fears? And how are you bringing that into your life? Once you begin to understand this, you can rise up out of the fog of the way that you've been living your life. And you can step into a new paradigm. A paradigm that is about love, about harmony, about non-resistance, about not struggling but surrendering, and really loving yourself. And from this place of self-love, all other love emerges. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this message, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you know somebody that would benefit from this video, please consider sharing. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video.